everyone. Here we are again. This is Marilynn Hughes of the Out of Body Travel Foundation. In this live stream, we are going to talk about some writings of Nichiren Daishonin, a Buddhist teacher. And we are going to discuss a particular text composed by Nichiren called The Entity of the Mystic Law. In this text, he points out some things that I think are very important to all of us in understanding how mysticism can be used for good and it can be used for evil. And how do we discern how best to use the experiences that are given to us in ways that are productive and move forward towards the purification of our soul and the unification of our soul with God, with the universe, with the universal being, with all consciousness, rather than following it in the negative pole, which would take us away from all of that, all that is creative, into a destructive space. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elmar and John and MT. Thank you so much for joining us for this. Again, a reminder, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us to become more searchable so people can find us, and also consider becoming a member. Memberships make it possible for us to keep our resources for free to everyone in the world. And so this is from The Entity of the Mystic Law. Now, Nichiren speaks in a language that's a little bit different than what we might be used to, so just be prepared for that it's a little different. And so in mystic law, in the language that Nichiren speaks in, mystic law is known as Myoho Renge Kyo. So Nichiren was Japanese, and so this is Myoho Renge Kyo, means mystic law. So it starts out, this is a question and answer format with Nichiren. Excuse me. So the question is, what is the entity of Myoho Renge Kyo? In other words, the mystic law. Nichiren states that all beings and their environments in any of the 10 worlds are themselves entities of Myoho Renge Kyo. Question: if so, then is it possible to say that all living beings, such as ourselves, are entities of the mystic law in its entirety? Nichiren says, of course. The sutra says, this reality, the true aspect of all phenomena, consists of the appearance, nature, and their consistency from beginning to end. The great teacher, Miao Lo, comments on this as follows. The true aspect invariably manifests in all phenomenon, and all phenomena invariably manifest in the 10 factors. The 10 factors invariably manifest in the 10 worlds, and the 10 worlds invariably manifest in life and its environment. Tian Tai commented, all phenomena consisting of the 10 factors, 10 worlds, and 3,000 realms are entities of the Lotus Sutra. The great teacher Nan Wei says, question, what does Myoho Renge Kyo, the mystic law, represent? The answer, Myo indicates that all living beings are Myo, or mystic. Ho indicates that all living beings are Ho, or the law. Tian Tai also says the law of all living beings is mystic. Question: if the entity of all living beings is the mystic law in its entirety, then are all the actions and their results that are associated with the 9 worlds, from the world of hell up to that of bodhisattvas, in effect, entities of the mystic law? Answer. The mystic principle that is the essential nature of phenomena possesses 2 aspects. Now we're getting into the important stuff here. Adriana, hello. Thank you for joining us. The defiled aspect and the pure aspect. This is really important for those practicing mysticism, having out-of-body experiences. If the defiled aspect is operative, this is called delusion. If the pure aspect is operative, this is called enlightenment. Enlightenment consists the realm of Buddhahood. Delusion consists the realms of ordinary mortals. These 2 aspects, the deluded and the enlightened, are indeed 2 different phenomena. And yet both are workings of the one principle. That is the essential nature of phenomena, or the true aspect of reality. It is like a piece of crystal. If the crystal is placed in the sun's rays, it will attract them and produce fire. But if it is placed in the moon's rays, it will produce water. The crystal is a single entity, but the effects it produces differ according to the circumstances. The mystic principle of the true aspect of reality is like this. The mystic principle of the true aspect of reality is one. It is one. But if it encounters evil influences, it will manifest delusion. While if it encounters good influences, it will manifest enlightenment. Enlightenment means enlightenment to the essential nature of phenomena, and delusion, ignorance of it. It is like the case of a person who, in a dream, sees himself performing various good and evil actions. After he wakes up and considers the matter, he realizes that it was all a dream produced by his own mind. This mind of his corresponds to the single principle of the essential nature of phenomena, the true aspect of reality. While the good and evil that appeared in the dream correspond to enlightenment and delusion. When one becomes aware of this, it is clear that one should discard the ignorance associated with evil and delusion and take as one's basis the awakening that is characterized by goodness and enlightenment. The complete and final teaching on Perfect Enlightenment Sutra declares, quote, "The beginningless illusions and ignorance that beset all living beings are all produced by the perfectly enlightened mind of the thus come ones," unquote. Thus come ones. I'm going to try to give you a nice little definition of that because it's important. So the term is often thought to mean either, quote, one who has thus gone, a Tathagata. The Tathagata is like the enlightened being. One who has thus come, Tathagata. Or sometimes one who has thus not gone, Tathagata. This is interpreted as signifying that the Tathagata is beyond all coming and going, beyond all transitory phenomenon. One of the 10 honorable titles of a Buddha, meaning one who has come from the realm of truth. That's what they're saying when they speak of the thus come ones. Hopefully that helps a little bit. The great teacher Tian Tai, in his Great Concentration and Insight, states, ignorance or illusions are in themselves enlightenment to the essential nature of phenomenon. How's that true? Because We are being instructed in the essential nature of phenomena when our ignorance and delusions are presented to us in this way. But due to the influence of delusions, enlightenment changes into ignorance. The great teacher Maya Lo comments on this as follows, quote, enlightenment has no separate entity, but completely depends upon ignorance. And ignorance has no separate entity, but completely depends upon enlightenment. You see how the two work entirely together in the purification of a soul, purification of a being towards the light. Ignorance is a state of delusion that must be cut off, whereas enlightenment is the state that one must manifest. How then can we say that they are a single entity? To resolve doubts on this point, one should have a clear grasp of the passages that have been quoted here. The example of the dream given in the 95th volume of the Treatise on the Great Perfection of Wisdom and the Tian Tai School's example of the piece of crystal cited above are very interesting illustrations. Further proof of the truth that ignorance and enlightenment are one in essence is found in the passage in the Lotus Sutra that reads, quote, these phenomena are part of an abiding law, and the characteristics of the world are constantly abiding. Great Perfection of Wisdom says, quote, enlightenment and ignorance are not different things, not separate things. To understand this is what is called the middle way. There are many passages of proof asserting that the mystic principle of the true aspect of reality possesses two aspects, the defiled and the pure. But none can surpass the one in the Flower Garland Sutra that says, quote, the mind, the Buddha, and all living beings, these three things are without distinction. Or the passage in the Lotus Sutra that describes the true aspect of all phenomena. The great teacher Nan Wei says, quote, the entity of the mind is endowed with two aspects, the defiled and the pure. However, it does not have two different forms, but is single in nature and without distinction. And the example of the mirror that he gives truly is a thorough explanation of the subject. For a more detailed understanding, one may also refer to his interpretations in the Mahayana method of concentration and insight. Another good explanation is given in the 6th volume of Myo Lao's Annotations on the Profound Meaning of the Lotus Sutra, in the passage that reads, quote, while the 3,000 realms remain latent in ordinary beings, they are all designated by the term ignorance. But when the 3,000 realms all manifest themselves as the result of Buddhahood, then they are all designated by the term eternal happiness. However, because the 3,000 realms themselves remain unchanged, ignorance is essentially one with enlightenment. Since the 3,000 realms all remain constant, they possess both entity and function. This commentary makes the matter perfectly clear. So we end with a final question. If all living beings are entities of Myoho Renge Kyo, then are ordinary people like ourselves who are ignorant and deluded, unenlightened and dull-witted, also entities of the mystic law? Nichiren says, though there are a great many people in the world today, they all fall into two categories, those who believe in the provisional teachings and those who believe in the true teaching. Those who believe in the provisional and expedient teachings, such as the Nembutsu, cannot be called entities of Myoho Renge Kyo, the mystic law. But those who believe in the Lotus Sutra, which is the true teaching, are entities of Myoho Renge Kyo, mystic law, mystic entities of the true aspect of reality. The Nirvana Sutra says, quote, among all living beings, those who believe in the Mahayana are called the Mahayana people. And of course, the Mahayana is a school of Buddhism. And the Mahayana basically means it's one of the two major traditions. Theravadan Buddhism is the other. Theravadan Buddhism is based almost entirely on the Pali Canon, which was written from the original teachings of the Buddha and his disciples. And the Mahayana came later, and it is typically concerned with altruistically oriented spiritual practice as embodied in the ideal of the bodhisattva. And a bodhisattva is a person who makes the decision that they will continue to come back and reincarnate to this world until all beings have been liberated. So it is the ultimate selfless sacrifice. Excuse me, again, suffering from a chronic cough right now. So what this teaching that Nichiren Daishonin is giving and is trying to express is that in the entity of the mystic law, we experience two realities, ignorance and enlightenment. And they are one and the same thing, because in our mystical experiences, our ignorances, our delusions, our self-deceptions will be shown to us. We will also see elements of enlightenment, elements of goodness within us. And it is our job through purification, discrimination, and discipline, which are actually the paths in Buddhism. Those are the paths that you see in Buddhism, to alter those elements that we see of ignorance. We have to identify them, alter them, to bring them over to the side of the enlightenment. And once we do, then we are becoming a progression as a conscious soul. So those elements, our one, when we are given to see the ignorance within us, this is a profoundly important part of the mystic path, because it is only through that recognition and identification that the mystic law can be perfected in these two elements, the ignorance, the enlightenment. We have to do that work to make it beneficial. Thank you so much for joining us. MT says, wow, thank you for this great teaching. You are very welcome. And thank you for joining us and listening to everyone who has been here for this. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Again, please subscribe to our channel. Helps us to become searchable and so other people can find us. And also consider becoming a member by clicking on the join button. You can see your different options. Becoming a member helps us to keep our resources free to everyone in the world. So we so appreciate all of you who are members who are with us today, and all of those who have subscribed. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.